The water here was deep, and as Qin Feng plunged into it, he saw an eerie blue-red glow around him. Clearly, this was the residue of toxins, making the area safer from mutated creatures. This time, surviving a near-death experience left no lingering sensation. Now, he felt the toxins burning his exposed skin with a fiery pain. But compared to previous injuries, this didn't matter much. Qin Feng swam swiftly in the water. Having just ascended a small amount of power, his speed and strength had improved, making him more at ease underwater. Within 3 minutes, he reached the bottom where a black hole emerged. The hole was at least 2 meters wide. Even standing straight, Qin Feng could pass through it. He entered without hesitation. The hole sloped upward for over 10 meters before Qin Feng left the water's surface. He turned off his oxygen mask and was hit by an acrid smell. Undoubtedly, this was a sewage pipe. This place was where Qin Feng had narrowly escaped from the experimental facility in his previous life. In his memory, he had been injected with an awakening potion, carried out of the research center by Zhou Hao, who met a sharp-toothed infant. Zhou Hao died, and Qin Feng fought against the infant, sustaining injuries. But because the infant died, Qin Feng absorbed its energy, healing his wounds rapidly, defying logic. Doctors diagnosed him, but he naturally mentioned that he might have awakened unique abilities. However, after leaving the medical vehicle, he was attacked again and abducted. In the vast gathering area, the Chaos OF Chinese letter Rift, Invasion Chinese letter 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 Qin Feng walked to the end of the passage. A steel plate blocked his path, but now a bloody giant hand was stuck at its end, revealing a gap about 30 centimeters wide, enough for a person to squeeze through. Qin Feng climbed up effortlessly and followed the giant hand. He saw the creature that had saved him in his previous life. It was a 3-meter-long beast, but now it looked too pitiful. Its entire body was rotten flesh, invaded by toxins, except for one claw trying to move the steel plate. The other claw lay on a pile of garbage, showing no nails. Moreover, this creature should have had fur in its lifetime. Now it appeared skinned and gutted, with its tail cut off. Both eyes were gouged out, and a hole was drilled into its forehead, likely where the core of gathered abilities resided. Without the experimental damage to its flesh and bones, it would be beyond recognition. How could it have died? Seeing that fist-sized hole, Qin Feng's tone carried a hint of surprise. If there really were such severe injuries, how could this creature pry open the steel plate? Weight is its sole power, but Qin Feng frowned slightly. His purpose was to find this giant beast. At his supposed death, he had fallen into the garbage pile and landed on this creature's body. Soon after, he felt a devouring force, but his ability was weaker by at least 10 times compared to before. His abilities had been severely tested in an experiment, leaving him with very little left. Nevertheless, even with such a handicap, the absorbed energy still brought Qin Feng back to life. He saw the situation clearly and crawled out through the crack, escaping death. So this creature owed him a life-saving debt. Qin Feng thought that he would return here after rebirth, rescue the creature, and sign a contract. With his enhanced strength from absorbing such immense power, this beast's abilities would be formidable. Disrupting a Z organization lab in Chengbei would be easy, but he never expected it to end like this. He checked the time. It felt 10 minutes earlier than when he remembered being conscious in his previous life. Wait, what is this? Suddenly, Qin Feng sensed that the giant beast's body moved as if pushed by an unseen force. Silver light emanated from its belly, space element fluctuations. The events of a few hours ago and years of familiarity with space elements made him recognize it instantly. Could the reason for his rebirth in the previous life have been related to this space rift? This rift was too small, smaller than the sharp-toothed infant's. Although he remained vigilant with past experience, Qin Feng did not flee but pushed away the giant beast's corpse. A silver disc-shaped light rose into the air. Space channel. Unlike a rift, which is unstable and prone to collapse, a channel was stable and usually man-made. After opening the circular channel, it spat out a small, palm-sized red mass. The disk then vanished entirely. Qin Feng's eyes naturally fell on what had been ejected. It was an irregular egg, or rather, a fetal sac. Inside the semi-transparent red sac was a tiny dog-like creature. Qin Feng could feel that this puppy's life signs were still stable, relying on the protective sac surrounding it like an eggshell. Everything clicked in Qin Feng's mind. Perhaps I absorbed the energy of this little thing after its death. He deduced that he had fallen from above and landed on the giant beast, mistaking the beast's recent death for his own. "I'll take care of you, little one. We'll seek revenge together." Qin Feng picked up the sack, carefully placing it in the waterproof layer of his backpack. Just then mechanical sounds suddenly echoed around him. A blade descended from above, clearly intending to thoroughly crush everything before disposing of the waste. "Rest assured, I'll take care of your child," Qin Feng said as he crawled away through the crack. The giant beast's eyes, now streaming with blood, seemed to weep. Buzz! The sound of the mixer filled the garbage channel, pulverizing it completely. Qin Feng emerged from the passage, feeling the moisture drip off his body. His skin still tingled with pain. But he paid no mind to these discomforts as he followed the river upstream, slaying more of the frog-like creatures along the way until he reached a shallow area. Here, there was no longer any place for the laboratory's waste products. The water had become exceptionally clean due to the absence of pollution. With the appearance of the spatial rift, humans were at the bottom of the food chain. Factories had all shut down in just a century. The earth was now covered with vast vegetation, and pollution had significantly decreased. Perhaps this was good for Earth. Qin Feng washed his hands and face with clean water from the river. His body showed no signs of harm. If T3 combat armor lacked even this benefit, it would be unworthy of its price. He opened his backpack and took out the placenta and the small object inside. Perhaps being away from the spatial passage had restored some vitality to the little creature. Qin Feng could clearly see that as the tiny thing inhaled and exhaled, the transparent liquid within the placenta gradually entered its mouth. The placenta was drying up, energy being absorbed continuously. Perhaps it would hatch in just an hour. Checking his watch, Qin Feng saw it was already 8 o'clock at night. There were no vehicles on the wild roads and the base had long been sealed off. Thus, he decided to spend the night outdoors. Finding a sheltered spot from the wind, Qin Feng spread anti-beast powder around. The pungent smell could repel some lower-level creatures. As for the spatial rift, though it appeared easily, its occurrence was not frequent. Each time, there was always the potential for catastrophic destruction. In his memory, this night had been a struggle to survive without encountering any spatial rifts or other dangers. Thus, spending one night outdoors should be fine. Recalling too many nights spent in the wilderness, Qin Feng quickly ate some compressed biscuits before sitting cross-legged. His consciousness gradually sank into his inner world. His breathing slowed, and he seemed almost to have disappeared from this world. In his mental realm, everything turned black. Then a transparent diamond appeared within his perception. From afar, it looked tiny. But as Qin Feng tried to approach, the diamond grew larger and larger. It was like being in space, seeing a brilliant star that gradually enlarged in his eyes. This truly seemed like a diamond planet so vast. A faint mist surrounded it, like a halo, rotating with the diamond's movement. Elemental core. Qin Feng felt a shock. In his previous life, his innate abilities had been destroyed. No matter how he perceived them, he could not sense what the other elemental users called an elemental core. This transparent diamond was his own elemental core, unharmed and intact in his consciousness. It was so powerful, floating silently in the dark sky, dazzlingly bright. Kun Feng contained his excitement as he used his consciousness to touch it again. The diamond wasn't entirely transparent. A black glow appeared at its center, deep and swirling like a vortex, absorbing any energy that approached. This is my innate ability of consumption. It looks so powerful. Kun Feng sensed this ability, recalling how his elemental core had been destroyed before his rebirth, but the central black part likely remained, allowing him to consume other life forms and become an ancient martial artist despite not being able to regain his original abilities. Yet if consumption is black, does that mean I'm a dark element user? So far, only 10 types of elemental abilities had been discovered. 5 common elements: earth, water, fire, wood, and metal, with varying strengths. There were also the rare light and darkness elements, and Kun Feng's awakened ability was indeed from the darkness. Unconsciously distracted by these thoughts, his consciousness loosened slightly, causing the stars to recede into a dark void. Kun Feng's momentary distraction made him lose track of time. He had left that mental space, feeling extremely exhausted. My mental abilities are too weak, Kun Feng frowned. Mental control was key for elemental abilities. Even practicing ancient martial arts required conscious direction of energy flow. This needed constant practice, which he could not do now. Ying Ying, a small voice called out. Kun Feng paused, realizing what it meant, and quickly looked towards his sleeping bag. He pulled back the sleeping bag to reveal a creature lying on a thin blanket, his rescued animal. The creature had already broken free of its placenta, eating most of it. Some remained hanging from its legs, likely to dry up soon. Ying Ying, the creature called again, opening its mouth and eyes as if searching for something to eat. Kun Feng took out a tube of gel-like nutrient liquid from his combat backpack. It had strong restorative properties, intended for the giant beast but now given to its child. The creature grasped the plastic tube instinctively and began sucking on it. Kun Feng smiled. Such small things always made him feel more gentle. He took a towel, moistened it with water, and warmed it with his body heat before wiping the creature. In both lifetimes, he had never been so tender towards anyone or anything. Drying the creature's wet body, its fur began to change from blood red to white as it dried in the air. Let's call you White. As a nameless one, Kun Feng named the newborn without hesitation. The newborn creature could not argue. It made 2 small sounds before falling asleep after eating. Kun Feng also crawled into his sleeping bag, placing the creature on his chest to prevent crushing it. He closed his eyes and fell asleep, but only 3 parts of him slept while 7 parts remained awake, simple for a survivalist in the wild. In a half-dream state, he heard a different kind of noise that woke him instantly. Quickly getting up, he stuffed White into his shirt pocket, rolled up his sleeping bag, and packed everything away. In 10 seconds, Kun Feng was ready to face whatever came next. From afar, wolf howls and dog barks echoed, with several figures running wildly.